Logan is making homemade dog treats.
Yeah, I saw that.
What the hell?
It's good for him.
Yeah. Instead of coming to the pod, he's making fucking homemade dog treats.
Good for
It's
him.
really cute.
You know what, Logan? You got some pretty dogs. I'd
know
be
what,
making them
Logan?
homemade dog treats
They
too.
gave him to the
Fuck
goats.
your dog treats.
They gave him to the goats.
Goats aren't dogs.
No, they're not.
We need some sound, like foam for this room.
Soundproofing.
Yeah. So then, like, it wouldn't echo.
Or just don't do that.
What if it's part of the podcast? Like when I'm reenacting the Dune soundtrack and I go,
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the PodRats movie show. I'm Brayden. Today we got Alex, Christian, and Hunter. No Logan again. He doesn't like us very much. Alex, do we got any movie news today?
Oh boy, do we. We're starting out with one of Brayden's favorites. The Psych 3 trailer released this week.
Dude, holy shit. I didn't see
For
this. I
Psych
actually didn't see
3,
this.
this is Gus.
we knew he'd be excited.
Man.
Psych was an American detective comedy drama series that ran for 8 seasons. One of Brayden's favorite shows for all of our fans listening.
Yeah, it's my favorite guilty pleasure.
By Brayden Psych merch. P.O. Box is.
My guilty pleasure is Psych, and y'all's is One Tree Hill. So
True.
You like One Tree Hill?
Shut the fuck up.
Don't we all?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I love One Tree Hill.
no.
That's where I became a Chantel Van Santen fanboy.
One Tree Hill is what got me into film.
Shut the fuck up.
On to the next piece of movie news. Rob Liefeld fears for his life if he confirms Deadpool 3 spoilers. So Rob Liefeld is the new director of the upcoming Deadpool 3 movie. And he says that now that Deadpool 3 is going to be, well, now that Deadpool is moving into the MCU universe, he fears that the Marvel security will take him out if he reveals any spoilers too soon.
Which they will.
Yes.
There's security guards that they have. They're bounty hunters.
The new movie is in development at Marvel Studios and it has Bob's Burgers writers Wendy Molyneux and Lizzie Molyneux Logelin are on board to pen the script. And in August, Reynolds said there's a 70% chance Deadpool 3 could begin filming in the next year.
Do you guys think Deadpool 3 is going to be PG-13? If they're going to incorporate it into the MCU?
They said it was going to be rated R, I'm pretty sure.
Interesting.
Is that allowed?
For Deadpool, it is.
Yeah, they don't touch on that at all. That'd be interesting though if they did. They changed the rating because it's at R right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of our problems with Venom, is that we thought that maybe they didn't push it to rated R because they were trying to merge it with the MCU. So, I don't know. That's interesting.
That is. Because it was a big deal with Venom, I feel like.
Yeah.
How they were trying to keep it down to PG-13.
All right, on to the next piece of movie news. First look at Timothée Chalamet as Willy Wonka or Gonzo the Great. His new outfit leaked on Twitter. He posted a picture the other day. I guess he's starring as the lead role in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and his costume does strike a resemblance to Gonzo the Great in the Muppet movie.
So, is this speculation?
Wait, I'm confused.
Like, is this speculation that he's playing one of the two?
Is this a joke? Is the headline a
This
joke?
is absolutely a joke. This is
okay.
not serious.
Okay. I didn't know.
No, yeah, this is actually a joke. He's not playing Gonzo the Great, the Muppet.
I was like, did I miss something? I could have sworn that was Willy Wonka.
It is Willy Wonka.
Guy directing Wonka directed Paddington and Paddington 2.
So it's going to be good.
I hope so.
You like Willy Wonka? You
Personally,
looking forward to this one?
did you like the Jack Black? I was
Johnny
thinking
Depp?
Jack
Johnny
Sparrow.
Depp?
Yeah, Johnny Depp one.
As Willy Wonka?
Yeah, did you like that
I mean,
movie?
as a kid, I loved those. Those are some of my favorite movies, actually.
I was terrified of Willy Wonka growing up.
I mean, I think you were supposed to be.
He's a scary dude.
Yeah.
He
In
did
both
like
movies.
He was supposed
murder
to be.
children.
Mm-hmm. And he had little minions that would...
Them Oompa
So
Loompas
children.
were scary as shit, man.
Yeah. So on to the next movie news. Madonna almost played a role in the original Matrix movie, but turned it down. She says this is one of her biggest regrets. I had no idea that they were trying to cast Madonna in The Matrix. Apparently, Will Smith was also supposed to be cast as Neo.
He was.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd been kind of cool.
Yeah.
Would Will Smith have made a better Neo?
Then Lawrence? Was it Lawrence Fishburne? Who's Neo?
Keanu
Neo
Reeves.
is Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Shit, I don't watch The Matrix.
It's kind of like where Keanu Reeves had his big breakout moment.
I thought Neo was the red pill or blue pill guy.
Oh.
What's
Well,
that guy's name?
That's still not Lawrence Fishburne's character, is it?
That's a different guy than Lawrence Fishburne's character?
Yeah, he's Morpheus.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think red pill, blue pill is the guy that like runs the Matrix, right? Or is that?
Spoilers.
I don't know, dude. We
Man,
don't
it's
fucking know.
it's been a while. I'm pretty sure that movie was released before all of us were born, so
Hey, that
We
song
can
in the
just
new
chalk that one
Matrix
up.
trailer, though, is pretty cool.
yeah.
I will say, we're going to have to do what we did with the James Bond movies with the Matrix before the new one comes out.
Are there a lot of those?
Three.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's
Hey.
three.
That's not bad.
No way, they're 2.5 hours each.
No, we did
Don't speak
the
too soon.
four
Yeah.
James Bond movies this week, so
On to the next movie news. No Time to Die opens lower than Daniel Craig's 3 previous Bond movies. So, No Time to Die opened at $6.3 million on Thursday night and went up to $23.3 million on Friday. But it is still set to be the lowest out of his last 3, which is surprising to me.
I can't really blame him.
Is it a product of the
Yeah.
pandemic?
I would think so.
I would think so, too.
Well, and plus it's been so long since his last movie. The last one was 2015.
yes.
And didn't this movie get delayed? Like, this was one of the first movies that the pandemic, like, really affected.
It was coming. It was supposed to come out in the May or April of 2020.
We noticed this after the movie, but the Billie Eilish song, the No Time to Die song, released like with her album
Did it really?
like a year
It's
ago.
like in 2019, right?
Oh,
Or
really?
2020.
Yeah. So it released a
Wow.
long time ago. So
Spoilers.
yeah, spoilers if you haven't seen No Time to Die. You probably shouldn't be listening to this.
If you
But-
haven't seen No Time to Die, Billie Eilish does the opening song.
There you go.
Sorry, guys.
That is a running theme throughout the Bond movies, though, because in 2006, when we were watching Casino Royale, Alicia Keys did it, and then 2012 was Adele, and 2015 was Sam Smith. So, like, they do the whoever's the most popular, I guess, or one of the most popular stars at the time.
And it's
Celebrity
not
singers.
even like the most popular. It's like the most powerful vocalist at the time, like
True.
the strongest.
That's true.
Because every single one of those are like strong vocal.
I mean, because Christian and I went back and watched them like this week for this podcast, and they were extremely good. Like listening to all those opening scenes, it was very good.
I've never even seen one of them. This is my first one. The opening scenes.
Well, speaking of watching No Time to Die, we obviously watched it.
Spoilers. We watched.
Spoilers.
No
We
Time to
watched
Die.
No Time to Die. Directed by Kari Joji Fukunaga.
He did a great job.
The synopsis.
ahead.
The synopsis for the movie. James Bond is enjoying a tranquil life in Jamaica after leaving active service. However, his peace is short-lived as his old CIA friend, Felix Leiter, shows up and asks for help. The mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist turns out to be far more treacherous than expected, leading Bond on the trail of a mysterious villain who's armed with a dangerous new technology. So the Rotten Tomatoes critic scores so far for this film are 84%, audience score with 88%. We got IMDb with 7.6. And for the box office, it has a worldwide box office currently of 313 million with a budget of 301 million. So I'm not sure it's made a profit yet because they upped the budget for advertising and marketing, and I'm sure they've obviously lost money from the pandemic.
Mhm.
But that's the biggest box office we've had so far
Of the year?
of any movie we've done.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Deservedly. It is so refreshing to watch a good movie after all the movies that we've been watching recently. So when Christian and I watched the previous 4 Bond movies this week, it made me realize like how much Daniel Craig put into these movies and how like I'd really missed spy movies. We really hadn't had much.
Like Spy Kids,
Like, yeah, exactly.
the last great spy movie.
I enjoy a good spy thriller. I really do.
I honestly don't know what the last spy movie I watched was before that.
Spy
So,
Kids,
Yeah.
Shark Boy, and Lava Girl.
It's probably Mission Impossible, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked in this movie they have a lot of callbacks to the previous movies too, so it made watching the previous ones really worth it. I think you can go into this, and I think Hunter didn't watch any of them this week, and I think he still had some good thoughts coming out of this movie. Like you can get a good grasp of what's going on without watching them, but it adds a lot to it.
This is true.
But I really enjoyed this movie. I liked Ana de Armas' 10-minute clip in the beginning. That was pretty awesome.
I like that they made it seem like she was going to be a big character in the movie, and she wasn't. Spoilers.
There is one problem though, if you do bring her up, that I had is it kind of made it seem like a little Marvel universe-y, because I feel like Ana de Armas was amazing in this movie and she was a good part, but also I feel like they added her just to set her up for another Bond movie.
I think so too. Yeah,
I could see it.
that's what I thought too.
Spoiler, she doesn't die. But
I read a lot of stuff about this, like a bunch of reviews, and that's what a lot of the reviews said too, was that they feel like they were setting her up for something bigger in the future.
I mean, that's how a lot of the characters in this movie kind of feel, though. The new 007, when they introduce Daniel Craig's replacement, that was
Lashana
pretty
Lynch.
Yep.
She the next Bond? Is that spoilers?
I mean, it is spoilers, but you learn it in about, the first.
I think it's funny because
Hour of the
there's
movie.
a lot of people didn't like Daniel Craig being cast as Bond because he wasn't black haired.
Really?
Blue eyes. Yeah. In 2006 or 2005 when he got cast for the role in Casino Royale. And then they just say, fuck you. And they have Lashana Lynch, who's a woman, an African American. And they cast her as 007.
see, but I don't think she would be the new James Bond.
Well, she's not James
No,
Bond.
she's not going to
no.
be the next James Bond.
I'm thinking if they do anything else with this universe, it'll be his kid. You know what I mean?
Shit,
Like-
I forgot about that kid.
That
Yeah.
kid could grow up to be something.
Yeah. I think the kid played a pretty. I don't know. I like that they showed her, but I don't know if she'll have a big role in the future movies. I will say, in this movie, Leah Seydoux, Madeline.
Lacey, yeah.
Yeah, Lisa. I like what they did with with her. I thought it was I thought Rami Malek didn't really have as much screen time as I wished. I wish that they would have used him a bit more. Like when they introduced him, kind of wish they would have shown more of his development as a character. Thought it was they jumped right into him being bad.
Yeah, he was kind of just like a typical Bond villain. Didn't really have much. It's nothing like in Casino Royale or in Skyfall with Javier Bardem. I mean, I liked Rami Malek in this. I just don't think Safin was given like enough to do
Mm-hmm.
in it. Like Rami wasn't bad. Also, I do think it was more so his weapon or what he was trying to do was more of a threat than he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a Scarecrow in Batman.
Well, and also it wasn't his weapon, was it?
No, but I mean,
Which, yeah, it was M's who's the MI6 head, but yeah, it felt weird. Like he was kind of the head of it, but there was no time when they ever made it apparent that like he had this whole master plan before, because like they go in and steal it, and then all of a sudden he's got a whole base and he's growing it, and that part didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But
He did mass
Kinda
produce
went with
that
it.
shit pretty quick.
His character is so goofy to me. Like, he's just you show up and he's like, flowers. I grew up in this flower garden.
Dang,
you're
bro,
like-
they should have casted you.
And you're like, okay. And it's like, it's just for being such an evil villain, he wasn't that scary at all. And I feel like his character was pretty stupid.
Yeah, he was
in my
kind of
opinion.
just dweeby.
Yeah. I didn't like him, but it wasn't his fault. I feel like Rami Malek did a good job with what he was given, I guess, but I just didn't
Yeah.
like the way his character was written.
yeah, I liked him as an actor. I mean, he's really good in this movie, but like when you compare his character to like Mads Mikkelsen, I thought Mads Mikkelsen in Casino Royale was much more threatening. Like he seemed like a much bigger Bond villain. But obviously Rami Malek's like weapon was, way, way bigger in this movie.
Well, Mads Mikkelsen too. His character is much more believable because he is like a big bad of that movie, but he also gets thrown around
Yeah.
during the poker
Because
match.
the pirates
Yeah.
come in when they take that break and beat the shit out of him, and the only reason he's still alive is because Bond comes in and saves him. So,
Right.
but yeah, that's not this
Sure.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say you need context for those.
Yeah. So this was my first Bond movie, and Alex touched on it earlier, but there were like a lot of parts, like I literally didn't even put any like two and two together until I came out of the movie. Like I didn't know that Felix worked with the CIA and all the small pieces that you can go through the movie without having those pieces. But if you have them put together, it obviously adds a lot more context, and I feel like also makes the movie better for you. I really liked the opening of this movie before the opening credits rolled. The like opening car chase scene, I thought that was sick. I loved the action.
The
I
action
loved
was
how
really
it was
good.
filmed. I thought it was super good. And I was surprised that I was impressed because most of that was from the trailer. It was just cut from the trailer.
Yeah.
And even though it was cut from the trailer, I was still like taken aback, and I was like, wow, this is pretty fucking sick. But I love that part. And then how that led into the opening credits with Billie Eilish. I really like the opening credits. They were really good.
Dude, I thought they were so sick.
Yeah. They got me in my feels, and I ain't even seen a Bond movie. So I can only imagine if I had seen them like before. But I've also seen a lot of people that didn't like Billie Eilish's opening, but I think that is also just the like backlash from the random flack that Billie Eilish catches for no reason.
It's true.
Because random, people just hate Billie Eilish because
Yeah.
for no reason.
I'm guilty of doing that sometimes.
I do it sometimes as a joke, but
Yeah, I thought that the opening credits for this movie gave a lot of context too. I mean, I don't feel like
Yeah.
you needed to see the previous movies to kind of feel the emotion of this movie.
yeah.
Did a really, really good job.
Because even though I'd never seen these like characters on screen before, I mean, like by the end, obviously, I was like attached to them and I felt like I knew them, and they were all like easily differentiated from each other.
Yeah.
They all had unique personalities, and I believe their personalities.
Yeah.
And most of them, probably all of them, were likable.
Yeah. You would really like the other movies.
Yeah, I know. I'll
Honestly,
watch
like,
them at some point.
They're really good.
I just didn't want to feel like watching a bunch of 2.5 hour
It's-
movies this week.
Yeah.
It was a drag. Let's see. I actually
A good drag.
It was a good drag. I found out yesterday. I looked at my letterbox and I'd watched more movies in the last 9 days than I did all last month. Because last month all I watched was the movies we did for the podcast and Peanut Butter Falcon. So
And you watched a lot more good movies this month.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sick of the shit movies. I'm glad we got a good one.
Yeah.
I am too.
You brought up how good the movie looked. I think the cinematography of this is second best behind Skyfall. And do you know who did the cinematography for this movie? The same guy who did La La Land.
I did see that. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. That's something I forgot to put in my notes. Yeah, I did see that. Because I was like, I read the cinematographer's name, and I was like, I've never heard of this person before. And then I clicked on it, and I was like, oh my God. I love La La Land, by the way. One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, being second best in cinematography in this series isn't a bad thing when you have Roger Deakins.
Was
Yeah,
Deacon Skyfall?
Yeah, Deakins and Skyfall. They got nominated for best cinematography in that movie.
Yeah.
In this movie, the way that they kind of tie things up, I really enjoyed. So, how long was this movie? Do we remember?
2 hours and 43 minutes.
See, it did not feel. This one felt way shorter than the other Bond movies to me too. Because, like Christian was saying, those 2.5 hour movies, like they felt long, but you were in the action. I was into it, and it was okay. This one did not feel 2 hours and 45 minutes to me. It felt way shorter than that, and I was kind of there for the ride. But the way that they opened this and kind of explained the villain, there were some issues with it, but I liked Rami Malek as the villain. I thought he did a pretty good job just of his character, and like the way it led into, Bond kind of saving the world, however you want to, I guess he didn't. Did he save the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did. He's James Bond.
This is kind of the first movie where it really felt like he was going to save the world by doing what he did, which I think is a good point to like go
I'll
out
start
how he
crying.
went out. You know what I mean?
Don't
Like,
make me cry right now.
The consequences were much dire in this movie.
oh yeah.
I mean, you bring up the runtime. I never wanted this movie to end
Me neither.
Yeah.
because I could watch Daniel Craig forever.
I think
As
all of
James
us
Bond.
knew the way that this movie had to end.
I think
Like,
everybody knew, but they just didn't want to believe it.
yeah.
You know, the way he went out, I just
With his daughter's dodo.
I wanted to cry, man. When I realized what had happened when he was fighting Rami Malek in the pool, I went, "Oh no!" I went, "This is really it, huh?"
Because this movie really builds like his relationship with his daughter. Because
Yeah.
at first, when they introduce her, I didn't think I'd be attached to her, and by the end of it, he grabs her doo doo in.
That's a stuffed animal, by the
Yeah,
way.
it's his daughter's doll that she left behind, and he finds it, and it's emotional. The whole movie, you care about Madeline. You realize that his life was kind of sabotaged and taken from him by Blofeld and all these other people, and he can't trust anybody. And the way that this movie wraps up is kind of beautiful in that, it's that bittersweet Bond ending. Like he never really finds happiness, and then he finally does, and then it's kind of taken from him, and it's brutal, but it's such a good way to end this era of James Bond. I felt like.
I love that part. The part where like it was playing that score. Also, score is amazing.
Hans Zimmer.
When it was playing that Hans Zimmer score and it was like showing her crying face and stuff. I love that. That had me in my feels. And I just met these people 2 hours ago.
Well, and it's funny too, because even the characters that I didn't like when Christian and I were watching the previous movies, when we saw Q had so much character development in this movie. The only character I wanted to see more from, I think, was Moneypenny. I wish Moneypenny would have had a little bit more in this movie, but I loved all the characters.
Yeah, you especially want Moneypenny and Q and M more, I think, in that movie because this is their final one. Mm-hmm. And with all of them together, especially. But yeah, that would have been nice.
So I remember when I was looking at movie news for this movie, James Bond was talking about how this movie wasn't going to have Bond girls. He had issue that in all the previous movies, it felt like they were objectifying the women, and in this movie, it was the first movie he really wanted to settle down and like show Bond as a human and not just this asshole. Because in the previous movies, I mean, you kind of hate him just because he's such a,
he gets bitches, man.
He does. He gets
Hella
mad
women.
bitches. Yeah.
Hello.
It also helps that it works story wise too, because
Right.
one of his traits is he does objectify a woman and sexualize them. But in this movie, he actually has a woman,
Yeah.
so he doesn't want to do that, and so they weren't given an opportunity, even if they wanted to. Really,
Yeah, I just think it was such a good way to wrap up his character, though. To not end it on he's just dying to save the world, but like he finally had a bigger purpose, and he had a daughter, and he had a legacy, and I just remember seeing that Daniel Craig line that he didn't want the Bond girls, and it was nice to see.
Well, that's good. It probably him knowing that the movie was going to end how it ended. I think that he wanted the Bond character to be more respectable, maybe. And I think by making him more respectable, it made it more heartfelt, I guess, when he goes out. Because if they make him how he is in the other movies and he objectifies women, like that turns a lot of audience members off of him, and it's like, well, okay, he died. But
Especially, and after what happened in the first movie where he saves Vesper, tries to save Vesper, I think it was really like that tone shift of where they show him going and finally trying to say his goodbyes and leave this life behind him, and then he's thrown into it one more time, and you think this is going to be just his life forever, right? It's just this endless cycle of like hurt, and it was just such a good dichotomy from beginning to end of his character developing and changing and finding something that he really loved.
And something he got to do in this movie that he didn't get to do with Vesper was say goodbye.
Yeah.
He actually got to say over the walkie-talkie, but he got to let the woman he loved know that this was it. And that's something with Vesper, it was just kind of ripped from him. But
I'm getting chills in the podcast studio right now.
I'm gonna start crying. I said this once already, dude.
The ending to this
You're
movie was just so good. This is I'm so glad that this is what's breaking our streak, man. This movie just made me so, because it wasn't the perfect happy movie, right? It had so much nuance to it. Really, really enjoyed this one.
yeah. Do you want to go ahead and give it a review?
Yeah. So I'll go first. This one, I've kind of been battling with it because I gave this movie 5 stars, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 95%.
All right. Nice.
That's a strong rating.
It's a very strong rating. I thought about this a lot.
I was on the fence about between 4.5 and 4.5 and 5. But
Coward.
I know. I walked out of the theater, gave it 5, and then I went home and I thought about it, and I thought about how stupid Rami Malek's character was, and then I went, you know what? 4.5. So with that being said, it's really close. I'm gonna go with a 94. So sorry,
Like I
Rami
said
Malek.
earlier, I've never seen any of the other ones, but I had my expectations kind of blown away. I really liked it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I loved the score, like I said earlier, and I loved all of these actors. They were all so good. Everyone just bodied their roles so well. And I mentioned it earlier, but like obviously I miss out on a lot of the like contextual things that are callbacks to the other movies, but it never once felt like at a part I was like, oh, I'm definitely missing out on something here, and like I have no idea what these people are talking about. Like you could kind of just, you could try and put the pieces together, but also there were never parts where you had to have like these sorts of pieces together to understand why somebody was doing something they were doing. And that's really hard to do, but they did it really well. And I am going to give this movie an 84%.
Damn.
All right.
Yeah, I think Casino Royale and Skyfall still reign supreme for me. Having to choose out of those two movies is a harder discussion to have. But I think I will go with I was going to go 83. Yeah, I'll go 83 too.
Totaling up to a cheese meter score of an 89%.
Oh my
Wow. Thank God. Finally a movie we liked.
Watched a good movie.
Feels so good. Feels so nice.
We're gonna get a 4.5 on our letterbox.
That is a 4.5.
That's crazy.
I'm so happy right now. I'm actually seriously.
Yeah.
We couldn't
Okay.
get the 90 though, guys.
Couldn't get the 90.
Okay, 84. Change mine. 84.
No,
Too
no,
late. Too
no,
late. Too late.
no.
That's just wrong.
Okay, it's gonna be kind of hard to transition here. I gotta wipe away my tears.
Interesting though. The
Yeah,
Rotten Tomatoes critic score 87%,
we're right on the money.
and we ran at an 89.
Okay, so we also watched Lamb this week, 2021 film directed by Vladimir Johansson. It's technically his directorial debut. Here's the synopsis for Lamb. In rural Iceland, a childless couple discover a strange and unnatural newborn in their sheep barn. They decide to raise her as their own, but sinister forces are determined to return the creature to the wilderness that birthed her. Critic score is 87%. Rotten Tomato audience score is 62%. IMDb score is 6.7. And this movie, there's no budget, but it made a whopping 1 million. I was about to say 100. 1 million this weekend at the box office.
That's a lot of cheese.
Really breaking those numbers.
What did James Bond make for reference?
313.
Okay.
Damn.
It's hard to compete though when you have
Yeah, I
James
mean, yeah,
Bond and then you
yeah.
also have an A24 indie art house
Yeah,
film
yeah.
come out. But
Yeah, I think it was us and like 4 other people in our theater watching this movie.
yeah,
And they were all over 60 years old.
And
Yeah.
they took it as a comedy.
Yeah, they were laughing
Well,
the entire
Which, hey, that's
movie.
fine.
this is something I wanted to talk about. I'm assuming okay, I really wish that we would have had a full theater for this,
Yeah.
because I would have loved to have a full room of people and get all the reactions, because one of the points of it is I don't think you're not supposed to know how to react to a baby with a sheep head and a hoof hand. But it's just funny how you don't know whether it's comedic or you're a little bit just like fucking confused.
Yeah, I was just kind of saying, what the fuck's going on
Or
all the time?
yeah. And this movie is labeled as a horror,
Just like Piotr.
and
What the fuck?
it's horror in the same way that maybe like The Witch or Midsummer is horror, but this movie
It's kind of like an uneasy feeling, anxiety. You know, you kind of just dread what's going to happen next, kind of horror.
yeah, it's like a folklore
I
horror
noticed
type thing.
Yeah.
During the movie too, they had a lot of like they'd play these low hums, and it just make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it just gave you this vibe of
And then nothing would
Dread.
happen.
right,
But it would
yeah.
just build up and
yeah, it
build
was just
up.
nothing, or
Yeah.
they'd have something happen, but it's kind of every scene was underwhelming up until you know the climax, I guess. But
What a fucking sad movie.
yeah,
Like
Pretty sad.
it's fucking terrible, man. Like I feel so bad for these people's lives. Like
I mean, honestly, they seemed pretty happy just taking care of their sheep up in the mountains up until
then they weren't happy.
up until they find this sheep baby child.
No,
this
they weren't happy at all.
chimera. Well, yeah, never mind.
Chimera. I never
Bro,
thought of it like that.
that was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah. It
Well,
makes sense.
I guess you're right, but there's reason why they're unhappy. I mean, it's not like they were just unhappy for no reason.
They did lose a child. It's alluded
Yeah.
to in the movie.
They did.
It also says in the synopsis, but
Because in the whole, like in that whole first part when they're talking, he's just he mentions to his wife that they figured out how to time travel, and he was like talking about going to the future,
That was an interesting little.
and she
tidbit
was
there.
like, does that mean we can also go to the past?
Yep.
And,
So yeah, I didn't even think about that.
and you can just tell that the couple's so unhappy, and it's just insinuating that they've had something very traumatic and close to both of them happen, and it's something that they're still trying to cope with, and it's really hard on their relationship. So
yeah, and I'm sure, of course, none of us have had children. Christian has one coming up.
God
but,
damn it, no, I don't.
um,
No, I don't.
We're breaking the news here.
Mom,
Speculation.
Mom, I'm not having a child.
But
Our biggest pop fan.
It's interesting how they explore how people cope with the loss of a child and having a kid, and how this thing, a natural baby sheep, what would you say it was?
A chimera.
Is that what is a chimera, by the way, for it?
It's
Is that an actual thing?
A mythical
animal-human
creature.
hybrid. Yeah,
A hybrid of
Maybe
an
like
animal.
centaur style.
a single organism. Yeah, it's one thing that's like multiple
Okay.
organisms.
Okay. Sorry. I just-
Yeah,
I
what
know.
are they
yeah,
called?
sorry, I didn't brief everybody on the glossary for this one.
There's another word for him.
Thinking
Like-
like Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief.
No,
A centaur.
there's a name for like
Centaur.
animals that are two different kinds of animals put together. I can't remember it. Sorry. Besides the point.
No, it's
Go ahead,
okay.
Brayden.
It's okay. But it's interesting to see how they deal with that. And the overarching thing of this movie is that they took something from nature, and nature eventually took it back, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're trying to allude to any parallels between not just having a child and losing it, but also what we do with nature and stuff like that. But that's kind of the only theme in the movie.
Yeah. There wasn't much to it.
There's not much depth to it, and the movie is a very pretty looking movie, and the landscape's hard to not make it pretty.
Yeah.
Because are they in Iceland? Are they in
Iceland.
is
It was on
Nordic?
location.
Okay, it is okay. But it's hard not to make that look pretty.
It did look very pretty.
But I just feel the movie, especially the first hour, because some of our friends were saying it's slow, and that is a valid criticism. And a movie that tries to do what it did with being slow, but also just being pretty, or having something, it doesn't do it for me. It's the setup to having the kid doesn't pay off, especially because we all watched the trailer. We kind of knew that this was going to happen. They were going to have a sheep baby. If we didn't watch the trailer, it might have been better for us.
Andy hadn't seen the trailer, so she laughed out loud when they showed the kid's ass.
Wow.
The kid's ass.
But if we wouldn't have seen the trailer, I think it would have been a little bit better as far as shock value goes. But because at least I knew that going into it, I was just waiting for it to happen. And it doesn't happen for a good hour or so.
Yeah.
It takes a while to set up.
What I liked a lot with Lamb was it's really hard to tackle the grief and loss and coping theme in these types of movies because it's been done so many times. It's one of the favorites of art house movies, and it's really hard to do it originally. And this movie did take a big risk in trying to tackle it originally. And I did like how it works in human superiority with the loss and coping. Like, I thought it was really interesting because these two parents are still loathing over the loss of a child, which is a very brutal thing. But it's also interesting just how it contrasts with all the sheep and also just, animals in general. Because when they are losing their young, which happens very frequently, they just move on immediately and continue with nature. And I thought it was, it just it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I will say to add on to that, they show a scene specifically where they show right after that the sheep baby had been born and they deliver it, the dad is in the tractor all by himself and he starts crying. And I couldn't tell if that was him trying to cope with the fact that this child thing was going to replace his daughter or what. They didn't explain that, but I liked that scene. I thought it showed kind of how visceral, he was going through emotions of is this right? He had to question it. And I guess there's not a whole lot of dialogue between the husband and the wife in this. They just kind of assume, that everything, I think they come to a mutual understanding that this was a gift in some way to them. And he was trying to accept that. And it's so it was very raw. The whole movie just felt like you were watching these people just come to terms with the fact that their daughter had just died. This was a gift and they were just kind of going with it. They wanted to grasp on to that feeling of having a daughter. And it was really good at doing that. I agree with Brayden. It was very artsy and it felt really slow at times, but the overall themes, like Hunter was saying, the grieving really drove home for me and made this movie much, much better.
What I also think is interesting. I could talk about this movie. This is one of those movies that the more you think about it, the more you
the better it gets.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the better
honestly.
it gets, and the more you put together and stuff. But Alex was talking about just how brutal it is and how visceral and raw, so much of it is, and a lot of that is. It's obviously intentional, but it's just to show you the brutality of nature and just how nature is an unforgiving thing. And the trailer personifies Earth and nature as Mother Nature, which I think is really interesting. It personifies it as a character in the movie, which is kind of the antagonist of the movie itself, is literally just Mother Nature. And
It's the animals, yeah.
yeah, and how she is brutal. And this happens. She can just take things away just like that as quickly as they're given to you.
Even when they showed the main villain, there was no part of me that hated the villain. You know what I mean? It was nature that hated him. Not hated, but
the main villain, the dad of the sheep baby, is literally what Hunter's talking about. That's just a symbolic actual figure.
It was I didn't personify that and I didn't hate that thing. You know what I mean? It still felt like that was supposed to. It was weird to me.
It has its reason.
Yeah, there was a reason why it was there, and I liked how they wrapped it up. The way that because in the movie, right, you see that the mother that delivered the lamb child kills the mother goat that the baby was born from, and in the same way that she kills the baby goat, the father chimera thing ends up killing the father,
quickly, without emotion,
You
just brutally
used
taking
an
apart.
interesting word when you first started talking about it. The parents thought it was a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a gift. They, being humans and being how they are,
Right.
they think selfishly, and they thought that this was a gift to them when really it's just a child being born. And just like how the mother lamb was annoying the fuck out of both of the parents, crying at their window, and then she eventually gets killed because the mother lamb wants exactly what Maria wants. She wants to have her child.
I love that too, because I mean, there's a lot of parts like that where, I mean, it shows you, because it seems that we're so different from these animals that we view as like lower than us and stuff. But there's so many scenes like that where you're like, huh, we want the same thing here. And they are doing the exact same thing that we are doing. And another thing I really liked was like third act of the movie when it kept showing the dead dog. Me and Brayden talked about this in the car. But when it showed the dead dog and it kept going back to that scene, I really liked that. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to do there because, I mean, 10 minutes go by and then it cuts back to the shot of the dog dead, just sitting there rotting away. And it's funny because we see that and that affects us so much. And obviously you're like, well, shit, that's sad. The dog dead.
Yeah.
But we've seen so much death already in the movie and none of it affected us like the dog did. Like we saw the sheep get killed off, and obviously like it's sad when these sheep die. But it's funny that the sheep dying doesn't affect us nearly as much as the dog dying does. Yeah. And I think that was a fun little contrast that they threw in there just to show us that humans are weird and how we value life, different types of life more than other types of life and stuff.
Speaking of the animals, these are some good actors.
Yo, hey, I would just like to say, okay, also, yes, they train their sheep incredibly well. But Peter, I was so glad when they introduced Peter because someone needed to come in and say what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, and like I love that. There are so many
much.
times in the movie where it like didn't take itself seriously, and with movies like this, you have to do that because like
it's too ridiculous.
Yeah, if you just go pretentious with the whole thing, you isolate people who are coming from a normal audience, who don't see these types of movies, and also if you go pretentious, you know, it's just kind of cringy. So I did like that they were self-aware at a lot of parts. Like when the fucking lamb baby is running around in human clothes in the turtleneck and bouncing around in the field, obviously it's funny. Yeah. Like, and it's cute. And you're like, I don't know, look at that cute little baby. And I did love that they introduced a Piotr's character.
He comes in and just says, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, he comes in and immediately it's just like, what the fuck? And it got a laugh out of the people in our audience.
Yeah, it did.
And hey, like I said earlier, they took the movie as a comedy. And hey, if they took it as a comedy and they liked it, good for them. Yeah. That's interesting and that's cool.
I will say a little tidbit too is the director of this movie. You might think that he had to think real hard about the themes and he came up with this story, maybe took years or something to write it. He made the story because he had a dream as a little boy.
Man, so many movies come from dreams, huh?
It's not nearly in depth as anyone would ever think.
Every David Lynch movie comes from a dream.
All right.
Also, wait, another tidbit. The co-writer for this is also writing Robert Eggers' The Northman.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Do we want to get to reviews for this movie?
Yeah, so I will go first. As we've been talking about it, I found that I liked it more than I thought I did originally.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, I probably originally would have come into this giving it a 50. After talking about it, I give this movie a 72.
Nice. That's quite the upgrade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I am going to give this movie a 70%.
Nice. Yeah. Short and sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about it and keep talking about it, but I kind of said everything, like major stuff that I wanted to say earlier. I said the same thing to Brayden in the car, but I did kind of hope I would like this more than I did. Like, I was really excited for this, and I did like it, but I did kind of hope I'd like it more. But with that being said, 72%.
Okay.
Nice score.
Damn. Y'all are going to think I hate this movie then.
No, it's all good.
Because, yeah, we did talk about all that stuff and all the themes, but I still think this movie wasn't as in depth as I wanted it to be, and there wasn't enough in the movie for it to justify how either long it was or how slow the first part of it was.
It's not for everybody either. A lot of people won't like it.
I'm gonna give it a 65.
Okay.
Not too far off of 72.
I know, but you guys all gave it 70 plus.
Well, I mean, yeah.
All right. Well, that gives us a cheese meter score of a 69.75.
Nice.
Rounded up.
Basically a 70.
That's a 70.
We can just call it a 70.
Call it a 7.
That's a 3.5er on our Letterboxd account.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
Well, this might be the longest podcast we've had yet.
Sorry, guys. We really.
Hey, with good reason, we didn't have shitty movies.
Yeah, we had two
yeah.
good movies, and one of them was art movies. So
We could talk about
we
them.
kind of have to talk about it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, if you guys made it this far, then thank you. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, go ahead and like the video if you're on YouTube, or leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at @_PodRats.
I'm not feeling a full hug today. Maybe like a half hug or something, you know. But yeah.
Everyone's going through it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'll give the other half. Sorry, guys.
Either way, you guys, your support means everything, and it keeps us motivated to be here every week. So with that being said, we'll be back next week. And until then, put yourself first and take care of each other.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.